Hi, everybody. It's Laura Eisenhower. I have just a lot I want to share today, and I know people just are processing all sorts of things. I mean, it's sort of a constant, and these aren't easy things to talk about. It's very easy to get triggered and misunderstand, and that is sort of what we're up against right now as we're going through a big kind of upgrade. But I mean, sometimes it is, you got to see it like it's a race against time. The less we focus on doing the inner work, the more these things kind of like, hold a capacity to, hook in more and gain more of a foothold in reality. And once something becomes a reality, it's very hard to undo. And we're dealing with a paradigm shift energy with the Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter conjunctions in an Earth sign, right? So these things are like, shifting the physical plane and determining the timeline that we're on. And there are multiple ones that are opened up to people, because we're not all going to experience it the same, but the general trajectory of where humanity's going that we see on a world stage, I mean, that's what I'm talking about in this context. So anyway, I wrote something this morning and I decided to just read it in a YouTube because I'm going to provide links, and I just kind of just want to share this. And so basically, you are absolutely missing the mark when it comes to creating a better world and moving into higher earth energies when you are stuck on the world of appearances. It's just like how feminists support Hillary Clinton only because she is a woman and they want a woman in power. Many don't care to educate themselves about her because they're so busy fighting for causes that are actually blinding them. We need to go deeper than that, or we are truly failing ourselves and future generations. These false flag trigger events that are something that is happening on a continual basis are psychological operations in order to get us to consent to their dark agendas and fall for the world of appearances and facades instead of justice, awakening, and global transformation. All I see with Black people who support Trump is that they are being treated less than, or like their opinion doesn't count somehow. I mean, look up Terrence K. Williams, a Black comedian on Facebook. He has a pinned video of him being invited to sit at the president's table, and other videos of him at the Trump rally dancing with a whole bunch of other Black people supporting Trump. But it's convenient to instead call Trump a racist because comments were taken out of context, and that's just what has been presented to you, and so it's just it's about as dark and awful as gossip, right? If you gossip about somebody to somebody else and they haven't even met that person yet, when they meet that person, they're going to have like a major issue with that person right off the bat. So this is what's so dangerous about the news. And they know that this is, how human psychology can work. So anyway, if Black Lives Matter, instead of calling Trump a racist, maybe see things from a Black person's perspective and the enormous amount of people of all races and ethnicities who support him, and people all over the world who are highly intuitive. So since you're obsessing over this anyway, you might as well dig deeper. They have done a ton of experiments like this with test subjects connected to eye color and other things. It began to really increase after Project Paperclip, and some of these mind control projects really began to focus in on how to experiment with the human mind and create sort of a narrative or a stimulus and get a really immediate response. That's why trending and trends just end up being a thing when we're just in more of a superficial world of appearances. So all these experiments were in preparation for what they wish to do to us and what they have been doing to us for a very, very long time. That is the basis of, psychological operations. So this is rampant in the world, and the media and the entertainment industries and pop culture is like the ultimate mind control tool and social engineering tool. So what I've noticed, though, with the diverse colors and races who support Trump, or at least unity consciousness and disclosure related topics, is they have moved on from victim mentality. They don't fight racism with racism. They know this is a divide and conquer tactic. They see through lies and bullshit, and they don't separate people based on color. They're already in a unified way of being and thinking. They also see me for who I am, and are some of my best friends. And so this goes beyond politics. But most I know who support Trump do because they support the takedown of the deep state, which is what Trump represents to them. Now, is it wise to put 100% faith in this person? Absolutely not. This is really about us right now, but those that are supportive of this are beyond politics. I'm not saying every single person that supports Trump is this way. There are, positive and negative minded people as far as the way they run their energy or see things, on both sides. But I'm just talking about my personal experience. So looking at the timing of the pandemic and riots, look at all the blame he endures. So it's time to see through the lies. I mean, these aren't casual things that we're dealing with on the planet right now. This isn't just like making a choice about what movie you want to watch. I mean, this is like our future generations, our health, our sovereignty. So, I mean, look at all the censorship. Look at what these social media platforms do if they don't like what you're sharing, even if it's coming from a professional, a medical doctor. I mean, everybody knows this, right? And has witnessed this and seen this. Our First Amendment rights of freedom of speech is being compromised. And there are no real respectful debates in the news. And there's just, a very, very steered narrative. So most who have turned towards this administration had to dig deep and discover things about this administration on their own. That's not something that you get through mainstream media. And so a lot of people have shifted their opinion of him because they decided to do research. So the reason I'm sharing is because I've seen his astro chart, and I have been, paying attention to a lot of information. I mean, that's what I do. That's how I've been. I've never been a politically minded person. I haven't liked what I've seen on both sides, but I've had reoccurring dreams lately, including one last night, and I feel it's something I truly need to do. What I discovered in his chart, which I've mentioned before, is he is a freedom fighter, and that's all there is to it. Yes, there's a lot that he's also, healing from. But I mean, it's almost like a path of redemption in a lot of ways for some people when they become, more service oriented to humanity. It's a way to recover from maybe, times in your past history you were, asleep or easily manipulated by the social pressures and, just sort of like the things that one's exposed to, especially, with what we know at some of these billionaire parties, there's all sorts of ways to blackmail a person and drug them. And, it's just, there's tactics that they use to really own as much of the power structures as possible. So I'm not sure about how much of that has existed, but it definitely shows that he's gone from one particular kind of lifestyle and is moving into a greater soul calling. And it's really about freedom and sovereignty and helping humanity be liberated from these dark forces. And the reason I say this is because his North Node is next to the Sun and Uranus. And there's other aspects in the mix, but that's huge. That really is huge. So you can just look up what Uranus represents. And the North Node is what we're here to integrate and what we're here to step into. It has to do with a greater soul calling. So I'm not putting out this video to try and convince you to vote for Trump, but, it's about just a much larger picture here. So while everyone else, might be eating up mainstream news and fake news and false flag operations that do have real victims, deaths, and yes, there is a virus that's making people ill. But the thing is, if one fails to look at all angles and the deeper layers and levels that exist behind the production and distortions and falsities, it's nothing short of tragic. You're being humiliated, really. So knowledge is our true power right now, and waking up fully and accepting our differences too. I accept you if you support some of these deep state players, because I know if you really took the time to get to know them more and do your research, you would probably stop supporting them. I've seen many Democrats walk away from that party, but it's not about the right or left, though, or political parties. The cabal has hidden behind both. But I can tell you something is very different about this administration. But please do the research for yourself. This video is more about being very careful with the news and stepping away from fake news and character assassination plots. Also know there's a ton you aren't seeing in the news about what is happening behind the scenes. And so shows like X22 Report and SGT Report are ones that I, highly recommend. So the individuals that are behind the bioweapons, that are behind New World Order plans or a possible other second wave, and those that fund things like Black Lives Matter are people who are connected to pedophilia and human trafficking. How many false events does it take to really get it? If 9/11 didn't wake you up or get you questioning things, there probably is not much anyone can say. It's convenient, though, to just use terminologies that cause denial, like conspiracy theorist, racist, or white privilege, or whatever the latest trendy, word is out there in order to kind of slip into those traps. Because they're not healing words, they create division. We could change our languaging and address the very same issues in the world because these issues matter, but the terminologies that people are using on each other do not help whatsoever. So anyway, it's convenient to, just use those terminologies and be in denial, though, about what's really going on. And they do this on purpose to keep alive the mind control and to socially engineer the masses. And the whole idea is that we stay stuck in a vibration and our vibration sinks. In a time that our vibration should be increasing, our vibration sinks. And if our vibration sinks enough, it's very easy to assimilate us into AI and take human enslavement and the enslavement of consciousness to a whole new level. These things are designed to play on your traumas, triggers, and emotions. So everybody, at a certain stage needs a digital detox and to step away from these electronics and to just get out into nature and just find your true soul essence. Do you remember in high school when people used to follow trends and everybody wanted to fit in? If so-and-so is wearing that, then I got to buy it too, kind of attitude that, we've all seen and witnessed. So, that doesn't work in the long term, to just see something and just want to, join in because everybody else is doing it. And the news wants it to look like everybody else is doing it. And this is the real news. And we should all be thinking the way that these news stories are being presented. Well, a lot of people are leaving their positions because they are admitting to writing fake news stories. So, the thing is, that's the personality matrix I'm talking about, where we are easily mind controlled. We're not quite connected to our soul enough to be able to have the intuition to see through things. So connecting with Mother Earth is really helpful. Getting to know your astro chart is really helpful too. So as many of you might be concerning yourself with Aunt Jemima being taken off a syrup container, more crimes against humanity are being hidden. So it's time to turn off the damn television. The cruelty towards Trump is sick to witness. He is in one of the hardest positions anyone could possibly be put in right now, and he is being shamed and blamed because people can't freaking think for themselves and get how this narrative is being steered. I don't care if you don't like him, fine. But the toxic energy of hatred while you're supporting some really major criminals is incredibly disturbing to witness. And I'm only talking to a certain percentage of the population. Everybody else, might not resonate with this, and some might just avoid it, and some might say, yeah, I completely know what she's talking about. So if you're turning more ugly in your approach to solve things through attacking and belittling and being against people that are calling out the deceptions of these movements by slandering, name calling, and also projecting, you're only getting more entrenched in duality. Many of us are moving on to a better world. You want to spit at the help, support, and camaraderie and healing that's being offered and encouraged to unify us all? I mean, that's your loss, right? You want to turn a blind eye to countless documentaries and witness testimony about things like satanic ritual abuse and human trafficking? I hope you're okay when you wake up one day and realize how mistaken you've been. But there's unconditional love and forgiveness for all of this. But it's not something that's, it's not something we can fully experience until we step up to the plate and we change our ways, because it's a part of our own energy circulation with our higher self and source energy, whatever you want to call it. If I name it this or that, God only knows some of the feedback I'll get, but it's good to share your thoughts as long as it's done in a respectful way. So to me, this isn't about Trump. It's about respect. It's about seeing who a person really is beyond their color and gender. It's about educating yourself and researching and not voting for something just because it seems to fit the model of this psychological operation and what it brings up in people. So you can feel good about yourselves instead of vote for like a white man who is doing more to help us in obtaining freedom than anyone we've seen for a long time. So again, it's like, I don't expect people to like Trump. And I'm sure the fact that I'm even sounding remotely supportive is going to, cause me to be attacked. I don't go though to other people's videos if they support Hillary or Obama or anybody else. And I don't go there and I don't go out of my way to insult them. I'm trying to respectfully open people's eyes. I would like to encourage people having an open mind to him, but more important, find your truth, find your soul essence. That is going to help you to navigate and steer your ship. And if you really don't have a resonance with him, that's fine. But you deserve to be able to see it through a lens of clarity instead of distortion, manipulation, and mind control and social engineering. And so this is something we have to constantly work on. And we need to be empowered and work together and not put it all on governmental leaders. This is a huge life lesson we have as humans, is to not do that. But, the hatred and the toxicity, I don't quite understand. So, I don't know if people, really know about even what President Eisenhower did in regards to the civil rights movement. How did Eisenhower respond to the civil rights movement? Well, he sympathized with the movement and personally disagreed with segregation. He felt that the only way racism would end is that, values would gradually be changed, but that the whole structure of society had to be change and put into law to protect the rights of, African-American or, Black people, whatever word you resonate with most. Eisenhower ordered U.S. paratroopers of the 101st Airborne Division to protect 9 Black teenagers integrating into a public school. The first time federal troops were deployed in the South to settle civil rights issues since the Reconstruction era. The civil rights movement in Washington, D.C., the Civil Rights Act of 1957, was the first federal civil rights legislation passed by the United States Congress since the Civil Rights Act of 1875. The bill was passed by the 85th United States Congress and signed into law by President Dwight Eisenhower on September 9th, 1957. The final act, though, was weakened by Congress due to lack of support among the Democrats. Okay, I will put the link in the description if you don't believe me. So not only was Eisenhower against segregation, he made it so that there was voting rights, that Black people had absolute voting rights, and all this madness began to change, connected to slavery. So the Democrats control Congress and have for a while, and his warning actually in his final speech was about the military-industrial congressional complex. And this is also connected to secret space programs, hidden secret space programs that have been infiltrated. Defense departments have been infiltrated, and that's all connected to Project Paperclip and all this kind of stuff. So he lost control during this time due to these sort of projects and the corrupt 3-letter organizations that have steadily gained a foothold in most all power structures on the planet. And there's multi-levels to this, and it does relate also to different races and beings that are interacting with our governments. And there's so much more to the story of the Greada Treaty and Eisenhower meeting with gray aliens that I put in my presentations, and you'll find that literature out there in the year to come. There's way more to the story about all that, and a lot of disinformation, or the whole picture just hasn't been really put out there. So, and there's reasons for that. So right now, though, the cabal and the deep state is being dismantled, but they're trying to distract you away from being in support of this and energetically involved in the process. And when you're distracted away or having your vibration drop, in sort of a battle and duality conflict, we become weakened again. So in this great surge of energy that we could really be helping to, take this down, we're being, sidetracked. So it's similar to, when you're not well, you should get rest and drink plenty of fluids. But if you're doing the opposite, it could turn into, a much greater, illness. It's sort of like a cold turning into bronchitis. So we're not taking care of the priorities. And if we don't take care of the priorities, we continue to weaken ourselves. You know, there's things that we can heal and address. We'll address everything and all of this, but there are ways to do it without this infection of these movements and all that kind of stuff. So the hidden hand is tricky though when in the political realm. It changes where it hides to throw us off. And when I say the hidden hand, I'm talking about like deep state control. So it hides behind different parties. It jumps around in order to throw us off and make it seem like it's about party. Ultimately, they want to conquer and divide, and they own both sides of war and both parties. But again, I really feel this administration is different. And it's sort of like the way a bacteria or virus hides in the body, like herpes or, you know, like Lyme's even, like, you know, it's just, there's things that, I mean, the parasitic forces have an intelligence in order to get away with being able to have you as a host. So you got to outsmart the parasite. So there's good or bad on both sides of any political party, of course. So again, this isn't about party. There are also good cops, good teachers, bad teachers, doctors, and so on. But it's important to understand the energy signature of cabal Illuminati members and that of their puppets or those that are being controlled by them. We need to locate the real threat to our liberties, rights, and freedoms and right to choose. You know, the kind of healthcare that we might pursue, especially connected to this, this virus. So we have, you know, that right. So obviously, like I said, Trump is not perfect. Some of his policies could come from a more awakened perspective. We all have something that we're working on waking up, okay? He has rubbed shoulders with some serious lowlifes, no doubt. And there might have been blackmail done on him, I don't know. But being blinded or blindly led by these dangerous tactics before election time is being further used to enslave you. Because of that, I would research further, because the end result is being assimilated into AI and actually losing your soul and your connection with your soul. So this is about us right now more than anything. Claiming personal sovereignty, learning about alternative healing and herbs and powerful medicines that can combat any virus, germ, bacteria, and also learning healing tools and modalities that will lessen the effect of dark weaponry and things like mind control and harmful technologies like 5G. That is where our attention needs to go. But people look to these others who want to shoot us up with vaccines that have proven to be dangerous. So can you imagine if healers, herbalists, and acupuncturists, and Chinese medicine practitioners and naturopaths were guiding our healthcare? No, instead, so many people are looking to the people associated with depopulation and who are part of masterminding the New World Order agenda and plan. So, you know, we have those options in our everyday life, right? And, you know, Trump has said many times that these other therapeutics would be available and that vaccines would not be mandatory. Now he's just being like pushed to the edge and absolutely like, I mean, there's a big nasty wave of energy happening. And again, I give Trump the benefit of the doubt and I'm supportive, but I've always been very, very careful about not giving my power away. And that's why I have a mission. That's why I do workshops and I do lectures all over the world because I'm taking it upon myself to take on a leadership role. So again, I'm not trying to convince you to vote for, you know, anybody, but remember what's at stake. Remember what you need to stay in touch with. So anyway, the hatred has to stop more than anything. So, you know, if you're sitting back and just sort of criticizing and shaming and blaming, what I would suggest is you get up and do something of value. If you know how much politics is a circus, especially, you know, some people just know that it's just madness. So it's understandable. Yes, move on from it all. But to get in the entanglement of it all and to be a part of the toxicity of hatred, division, name calling, belittling, and allowing yourself to be sort of steered or entrained into, you know, thought forms that really aren't your own and don't originate with your own, you know, personal truth, you know, that's a concern. So yeah, watch the news, but step back and make sure, you know, you're listening to what your intuition has to tell you. You know, does your bullshit meter work? I mean, there's going to be some truth and some falsity. So the best thing we can do is learn discernment and learn how to see clearly. And we're not all going to see things the same way. So we don't want to be in a war mentality against the differences of opinion. We need to learn how to respectfully communicate, share information without feeling threatened by it, without stooping to this lower level, using these trigger words to just throw us into, you know, a really, really lower mentality that absolutely is breeding ground. It like literally makes us vulnerable to AI parasites, mind control parasites, germs, viruses, and a weakened immune system. Raising the vibration and healing our emotional body and our mental bodies, our physical body is going to follow. Our physical body is going to upgrade in the face of that. We have to have emotional health and mental health and spiritual health in order to have physical health. So if anything's making us sick, it's the fact that we still haven't figured out how to operate from that place. And we have to admit that we're healing, we're growing, we're learning, we're releasing old programs. I mean, more humility and more transparency connected to the fact that that's true for everybody is a good way to go. But so I just think it's really obvious how mistreated Trump is and how ridiculed and insulted he is in mainstream media. And people have really attached themselves to scandals and false news that have tried to impeach him, and that didn't work. No one has really talked much about Obamagate. Hillary's going to be, testifying in September, and there isn't like a lot of outrage. There's been things in the news that have been largely ignored that are just as tragic and horrible as the death of George Floyd. So, I mean, can't you sort of see how these things are sort of generated or engineered? And I don't want to disrespect, anybody who, really believes in this story full on. And I totally respect your thoughts on that. Or people who really do feel afraid of this virus. I mean, people are getting sick, there's no doubt, but how can we possibly heal if we can't even think clearly, and if other things are trying to think for us? Because that is the takeover. We lose our capacity to think freely. We lose our capacity to listen to our inner voice. We're being triggered with fear and anxiety, which makes it very difficult because we're not taking a breath and stepping back and utilizing our greater tools, abilities, and spiritual awareness. We end up saying, okay, run me, run my body, run my life, take away whatever you need, put a mask on me, and separate me from loved ones. It's like we're complying, we are agreeing. These masks have more detrimental effects than we can imagine. So it's very metaphorical to blocking the throat chakra, and separation is very much about us not connecting energy. And it's also about being able to surveillance us and the upgrade of technology and what they're trying to do in order to be able to monitor us in a whole new way. So it's up to us to focus on solutions, focus on unity, focus on forgiveness and healing, and begin to starve that parasitic beast, because we ultimately, decide, in Eisenhower's final speech, he talks about it's going to take a knowledgeable citizenry and an aware citizenry in order to overcome this dark rise of misplaced power. And also the Kennedy quote, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. We all have profound missions and purposes and skills and abilities and talents and gifts. So let's merge together and take leadership roles in our community to offset, this tyrannical rulership that is different state to state. But, these are the improvements that are happening on a governmental level. Whether you like Trump or not, there have been improvements. It's not perfect at all, but my gosh, this is a big bridge to a whole new, kind of system like Nasara. And, so I just hope people know what I mean. And I just hope you can see through all this. We have another eclipse coming up, and eclipse times are very, very powerful to, reset energy. So those news sources I recommend, I'm going to, get some links in, to back up some of, the stuff about, the civil rights and this and that. But, take care, everybody. And I wish you well.